introduction to Greha. This program that we're doing now on a monthly basis was started about 4-5 years ago as in a slightly different incarnation. At that time it was called the Architecture Collegium, and it was an attempt by some of us architects in the city to meet not regularly but some usual frequency to discuss professional issues and how a profession can have a better reach. These are the problems of professional people everywhere. So we used to meet and in the Delhi Urban Art Commission and places like that. But after a while of those meetings, it was felt that we ought to open the thing to other people. And while we were meeting, one of the important things that developed was an idea that we needed an architecture museum, a national museum of architecture. So we realized that in fact the architecture profession was very underrepresented in civil society. Represented. Most people seem to think that architects were, came after the whole building. It's sort of subservient to civil engineering or something like that, or part of civil engineering. And hence we felt that it was very important that the forum be widened, and the India Habitat Center, the Habitat World, were very kind enough to allow us the use of this hall, which I prefer this hall better to the oratoria, because it has a more, it's a rehearsal theatre. So, and as architects, we're very fond of theatre, I think. So we kind of find this a much better place for discussion and all the rest of it. And hence we have this now listed as a kind of cultural event, which I think is really what it's intended to be. And we have been having, well, this is I think now the 19th perhaps lecture in the series, isn't it, the 19th? Yes. So it's been going for some time now, it's every month. And we have had a string of actually other than architects come and talk. And I'm very happy that Swapna has agreed today to tell us about Delhi, which she has been studying for quite a long time. And of course, she's also the convener of the Delhi Chapter of INTACH, so she has a kind of official responsibility to sort of project the details about Delhi or whatever the data. So I will, without anything further ado, I will suggest that Swapna then takes over. Any other introduction needed?
No.
So, thank you, Swapna.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ganju, for this. As you sort of, it's become the trend now to have some pictures. So I do have some pictures, and some of them I think hopeful. Some of them are just there to anchor the sort of discussion, I suppose. And some of them I think, I hope you will find interesting. One of them is this, and that really, I think, in some senses, is what I'm talking about, living with heritage. How do people in Delhi, how have they been living with heritage? And it's a question of how the state has managed heritage, what people think about heritage, what do people who live around these great historic, great or small, some of them are not terribly significant, but they are there, they are historically, they are there, these are these old structures, and how have people been living in them. And as you can see here, this is a picture of the Begumpur Masjid. Begumpur Masjid at a time, I think this is an Archaeological Survey of India photograph taken in 1919, 1920, something like that, when people were actually living in there. In a fairly, sort of well-made huts, they had put themselves together. So, so this is what it's about. There's not a lot of structure in my presentation. I like an anecdotal kind of style. I'll talk about a few, sort of things. I'll put them together and present them to you, and let's see if we can draw some conclusions about how things have changed, what has happened, why, sort of how do we look at heritage today as opposed to how people looked, or do we look at it differently at all. So, for me, whenever I talk about the built heritage of Delhi, mostly the story begins with the Qutub Minar. I mean, the complex itself, because there's so much happening in the Qutub Minar that when you see it and study it, and there are many aspects to it. But today, what I'm looking at is how the Qutub Minar, of course there are the builders of the Qutub Minar. You have Qutubuddin Aibak, who sort of allegedly starts the Minar, and there is an inscription which credits him and his master Muhammad Ghori for having started and commissioned the Minar. And he builds this one story, and then Iltutmish adds to it. But what is interesting is in the history of this area, this is the core of, at the time when the Qutub Minar was built, this was the core of this was the center of power of what was a small Delhi kind of kingdom, which grew a little bigger in time to be the Delhi Sultanate, a fairly far-flung sort of empire.